The Rochester Symphony presents An Opera Affair, featuring the Rochester Symphony Orchestra and Chorale at Lourdes High School. Conducted by Maestro Jerry Lance. Well, you know, when I decided to do an opera program, I thought, you know, there are a lot of people out there that hate opera, or think they hate opera. They hate opera the way I hated mushrooms before I tried them. You know, I looked at a mushroom, I said, I don't want to eat that. I'm not going to try that. No way. And I told everybody I hated mushrooms. I had no idea. Then one day I was in a social situation where I had to eat the mushrooms. I thought, not bad. And that's what we're trying to do with this concert, getting people to say, hey, I'll try opera. Not bad. They might even love it. This is a concert for people who love opera. It's also a concert for people who hate opera. Because even those of us who love opera a lot find that there are moments in opera. Mark Twain said, Wagner has some beautiful moments and some really boring quarters of an hour. And there's a lot of those quarters of an hour in all sorts of opera. And I go to the opera and I feel the same way. I'm waiting for those wonderful moments. So this concert has nothing but the wonderful moments. There's none of that quarter of an hour stuff where you're just waiting and waiting. There's no waiting in this concert.
We go now to Giuseppe Verdi, who transformed Italian opera from being ordinary kind of decorative drama to being something rich and beautiful. He didn't really hit his stride on it until about his 13th or 14th opera in the 1850s. But we're going to do a piece from his third opera in 1841. Why are we going back to where he was writing opera before he really hit his stride? Because it was the greatest chorus he ever wrote for an opera. The story comes from Psalm 137. By the rivers of Babylon we sat down, yea, we wept when we remembered Zion. The Israelites have been captured by the Babylonians, led by their king Nebuchadnezzar, known as the title of this opera as Nabucco, the Italian word for Nebuchadnezzar. And they are sad in Babylon, and they're thinking about their beautiful homeland, and they speak of all the beauties of the land and how much they miss it, and how they feel oppressed under the yoke in which they suffer. And of course, at that very time, all of Italy was under the Austrian yoke, who was controlling them, and they wanted their independence as well. So this chorus really resonated with the people of Italy then, and it still does. Today, whenever this opera is performed, it's not performed all that often, especially outside of Italy, but when it is performed, at the end, the orchestra and the chorale join again to repeat this chorus, which means so much to the land where it was born. Here's Verdi's Va Pensiero from Nabucco. Born just 5 months before Verdi, Richard Wagner became the greatest innovator in the history of opera. He changed more things, and there was great controversy about him. Some loved him, some hated him, but there was no question that the person who loved him most was Richard Wagner. The greatest jerk in the history of music, and believe me, there have been a lot of them. You've seen Amadeus, you know, okay? But Wagner, for all his complete egocentrism, was a genius. And what music he created is absolutely beautiful. And I simply choose to love the music and forget about the guy. I've never met him, and so I don't have to deal with him. One of his first great operatic successes was Lohengrin, a story about a mysterious knight who falls in love with and marries the beautiful woman Elsa. And it's the beginning of the third act. They're about to get married. And the prelude to the third act, which in good performances, the curtain is closed and you just let the orchestra go and people imagine all the madcap preparations to get the wedding ready, because getting ready for a wedding is a really complicated thing. I know, my wife and I are doing that right now. It's a year away, but we're still totally caught up in it. Right? And this introduction to Act III does exactly that. It tells the preparations for the wedding. Then it calms down, the curtain opens, and there is the bridal procession. And yes, it's a beautiful procession to music that you know very well. And the music has been used so much in bridal processions that, you know, it's like Yogi Berra, who said, you know, I never go there, it's too crowded. No, I actually said, nobody ever goes there, it's too crowded, right? And this has been done so much that people just don't do it much anymore. They really ought to. It's a beautiful bridal procession, and you hear it exactly the way Wagner wrote it, with a beautiful chorus and the orchestra, and a piece that begins with great vehemence. The introduction to Act III ends in total serenity. Here's Lohengrin by Wagner. going to move now from very serene Wagner to very enthusiastic, excited, and kinetic Wagner here. The Valkyries, they were the daughters of the gods who transported the fallen in battle, the select fallen in battle, the heroes, to Valhalla. And they did it on their steeds. And yes, they were the characters that were kind of caricatured as Wagnerian women. They wore the helmets with the horns, they had the big metal breastplates, they had the spear in hand, all that. And I don't want to meet one on a dark night in an alley, let me tell you. Okay? But the Valkyries were powerful women, and they were responsible for riding across the skies with these fallen heroes on the way to Valhalla, and we're going to play the ride that they went on. It's wild. Hold on to your seats.
Next week, the Rochester Symphony's concert, An Opera Affair, continues, featuring the chorale of the Rochester Symphony. Please join us.
Oh
activity is made possible by the voters of Minnesota through a grant from the Minnesota State Arts Board, thanks to a legislative appropriation from the Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund. The Rochester Symphony Orchestra Presents is a co-production of KSMQ Public Television, the Rochester Symphony Orchestra and Chorale, and Rochester Symphonic Vision Productions.